Kong Skull Island. What a film. What a lovely film. Following from 2014's Godzilla, this film sits in Legendary Entertainment's own Monsterverse, where all these new giant monsters will live in the same cinematic universe. Down to the movie. Where do I start? Set in 1973 during the end of the Vietnam War, a group of scientists, alongside a team of soldiers, are set out to Skull Island, an island previously unknown to the rest of the world, which of course is inhabited by all sorts of giant creatures and the mighty Kong. The movie is fun. I'm going to say that right off the bat. It's an absolute blast to sit through. There are some really amazing scenes in this movie with some awesome cinematography from Larry Fong, who's previously worked on such films as Watchmen and Super 8. He's clearly drawn inspiration from Apocalypse Now, which if you haven't seen, you totally should. It is a gorgeous movie. One thing you'll actually notice is that they aren't afraid to show the monsters in the daytime. This is a problem which has been previously seen in Godzilla and many other monster movies in recent years, but now you can see all the awesomeness going on. Kong punching and kicking, grabbing helicopters, throwing down with other monsters. It's all stunning. I was grinning away every time you see Kong beat his chest and roar. Now on to Kong himself, the king, the god of the island. He is beautiful. The design of him is great. It follows more of the original 1933 design than that of a real gorilla, which I can dig. You may also notice that he is much taller this time around, actually around 4 times bigger. It actually works well here. The natives that worship him are actually also very interesting. They're not necessarily savage and mindless like the 1933 and 2005 counterparts. They're more realistic. They have villages, families, society, all protected by Kong from the skullcrawlers that populate the island, which themselves are actually an interesting and quite unique monster, at least when compared to the Mutos from Godzilla. And at times they're downright terrifying. The fight scenes between the two are also really well done. They have wide shots so you get to see everything that's going on, which really gives you a sense of scale in the situation. You're practically seeing these huge, hulking masses just duke it out. It's really well done. The soundtrack was also wonderful, with many late 60s and early 70s tracks that make the overall setting of the movie just feel that bit more real. Goes well, though some of them may have been a bit cliche. The score was okay, and it did the job in setting the atmosphere and intensifying the action scenes, but it was nothing special. We have to move on to the negatives, and yes, there are a few. We have to talk about the characters. They really are lacking, which is unfortunate. They lack full depth. They remind me of the colonial marines from Aliens. You're just waiting for them to get picked off. However, there are some likable characters. John Goodman, Tom Hiddleston, Samuel Jackson, Jason Mitchell, and Toby Kebbell. They all play reasonably likable characters in the movie with their own backstories and personalities. But one of the more disappointing characters was Brie Larson's. She played a photographer. She was hollow with very little to no character. John C. Reilly also felt out of place. Designed to be the comic relief, some of his humour just felt out of place and downright awkward in what's meant to be a serious situation. But in the end, all these characters are simply vehicles to move the story forward, so we can see more of Kong simply beating up monsters. But one thing's for sure, all of these characters have a better personality than Ford Brody. The film itself can feel rushed at times. The first act especially jumps from place to place, suffering from the same problems as Rogue One. I feel this is also due to the editing. Seems like they had to cut some things down to shorten the movie. Some scenes end just really abruptly at times. Shots move from place to place at quite an extreme pace. It's noticeably distracting at times, though it does get better as the film goes on. The third act especially is so action-packed and gripping, it makes up for most of the faults throughout the film. In the end, the film is very easy to pick apart when you're thinking about it from a critical perspective. The pacing can be off at times, there's the overuse of effects that give the film a sort of fake feeling, almost as if it was shot entirely on a green screen, especially during this one scene involving the Northern Lights. Characters are underdeveloped and the ending is pretty abrupt, but these faults aside, it really is an entertaining movie that monster fans alike will enjoy, with some action-packed scenes with some great cinematography. Not perfect, but a commendable effort from director Jordan Vogt-Roberts. I'm going to give Kong Skull Island a 7.5 out of 10. The film is now the second Monsterverse movie, and honestly, this is the best aspect. It's about the world building, this whole premise about the monsters being hidden from modern society, with the subtext about mankind and their effects on nature, as well as Monarch essentially being our eyes into this classified world of monsters. It's really interesting and something that I've wanted to see ever since I was a child. I am very eager to see the next film, which will no doubt push this cinematic universe to be one of the most fascinating yet. By the way, just a heads up, stay in the theatre for an after-credit scene, you won't regret it.